Recording in progress.
Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer your Detroit Lions questions. We are in it. Training camp is 3 practices in. Erik and I were present for all 3, and not a surprise, a lot of this is going to be about what we have seen, what has developed at training camp. My name, by the way, is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the producer over at Pride of Detroit. You can find me at Detroit on the Lion on any socials that you want to find me on. With me, as previously mentioned already, is the managing editor, is the machine, is at Erik Schlitt on Twitter and socials, I imagine. It's Erik Schlitt. How we doing, buddy?
Hey, bud. I feel like even though it's only 3 days in, it feels longer. It feels like there's been a lot of information. I feel like it's been a full week at least. And, but really we got a long way to go still. So, lots to learn.
No question. I mean, and those first couple days are always kind of a flood of information, and with a lot of moving parts with the team this year, there's been a lot of intrigue, and then we get a nice little contract dispute right in the middle of it as well. And, that's where we're going to start this week's show. If you're a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, we've already talked about it a little bit on our Day 3 recap pod, but for the general audience here, NTSLL podcast asks, Alex Anzalone, with the salary cap situation for the next year not being good, what could the Lions do to get Alex into camp? Would just be guaranteeing this year's contract be enough? Does there need to be a raise, or are we talking extension, and that would make next year even worse? No. Yes, so let's talk about it. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly what Alex Anzalone is asking for. He more or less said like he thinks it's reasonable. He did outright say that he believes a raise is in order. And when asked why, he was like, well, the market, production, it seems obvious. So I think the answer to the first part of the question, does guaranteeing his current contract, will that be enough? The answer is no. That's not what he's looking for.
Yeah, I think the contract, he's expecting to play it out, see it all. And so just guaranteeing it, I agree with you. I don't think that would be enough. It does get tricky because we don't know exactly what he's looking for. We don't know what he perceives as his market value. We assume he wants a long-term deal in place because he's said, I would like to retire a Lion, and he's got several years left in the NFL most likely. And so, but on the opposite side, we also don't know what the Lions are looking for.
Right.
We know that they've just signed Derek Barnes to a 3-year deal. Jack Campbell is coming up on a potential extension next season, or at least a decision on a 5th-year option next season. And so there are a lot of unknowns in this situation where I don't think we can, like, with full confidence, answer any of these questions other than, just to kind of speculate. I don't know if you feel more confident than I do. I feel kind of in the dark as much as everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, but I guess when he specifically points to the linebacker market, mm-hmm. I'm like, I don't know if he deserves a top end deal or is even looking for a top end deal, but you look at someone like Zach Bond, who's 28 mm-hmm. to Anzalone's 30, and that matters. But he got a 3-year, $51 million deal compared to Anzalone essentially getting $6 million this year. We're talking, I can't do the math in my head right now.
It's a little over 7, but yeah, it's low, much significantly lower.
Right. And if you compare that to Zach Bond, who's getting a little bit, I wish I could do math in my head. What's 51 divided by 3? That's 17 million a year? 17.
Yeah, they've finagled it, so it's all. But yes, on average, you're looking at about just under, actually a little closer to 18.
So there's a pretty massive gap there. I don't, like I said, I expecting top end deal, expecting 17 million a year. That's not going to happen. But I think you would have to move him into double digits, and I think you would probably have to make it a multi-year contract. I don't even think extending 1 year is necessarily what Anzalone is looking for. And why is that? Because he said he wants to retire a Lion. He wants the opportunity to retire as a Detroit Lion. Is that maybe just like a, hey, fans, get on my side line that he's feeding to the media? I mean, maybe a little bit, but at the same time, he likes this team. He likes this regime. He likes this culture. He feels passionate about the fact that he was here from the beginning of the turnaround and wants to see that through.
Yeah.
And so it's a really tough situation because you can see all the reasons why Alex Anzalone is frustrated. He has been a massive part of the defensive turnaround. I've said it multiple times. I'll say it again. I do think he's currently the best Lions linebacker. Jack is certainly closing that gap, but I still think Alex is kind of the heart of that defense, knows it the best, and still is playing at a really high level. But on the Lions side of the ball, you have a ton of massive extensions coming up that are guys that are going to be around for the next 5-6 years rather than the next 2 or 3. And you're generally going to prioritize your young core over your veteran older players. And so if I had to guess, and this is just a pure guess, I would imagine length of a contract is probably a sticking point right now. I think the Lions would want to maybe add 1, maybe a second year to his current deal. Anzalone, I would imagine, wants at least 3. Because from his point of view, this may be his last chance to cash in on a big contract entering his 31-year-old season.
For me, I have a much sourer feeling about this whole situation. And again, that's one of the reasons why I want to reconfirm that I'm just purely speculating. But from a financial standpoint, it's going to be really hard for the Lions to make the moves, the extensions that they want, and give him an extension. And the move to re-sign Derek Barnes almost looks like a precursor to not giving Alex an extension. And I hate to say that because I am in the same boat as you, where I think Alex is probably the best linebacker on a very good linebacking unit.
Right.
I also wonder if this is the year they plan on turning that, all those responsibilities over to Jack Campbell, to see if he can handle it, right? Before they give him an extension, right? So it's tricky. And, unfortunately I get a lot of bad vibes out of the situation. If they do compromise, I wonder if it ends up where I can see a scenario where neither is happy, that the Lions end up paying more and Alex is still unhappy with that he had to concede years or overall salary. I don't know. So yeah. I'm feeling really negative about it right now, unfortunately. And I'm hoping for some positive outcomes in the future and for this to be resolved. But every day that goes by, it leaves me with a more souring sense of the situation.
Right. I mean, this is the first time anything like this has happened, which probably points to this being a contentious debate.
Yeah.
A contentious negotiation. It speaks to it probably not being very close to a resolution right now, because I would imagine the Lions would have wanted to hammer this out before camp started to avoid the press conference that happened on Tuesday, right?
Sure.
But I just wanted to make one more point on Jack Campbell taking more of those responsibilities potentially this year. Dan Campbell talked with SiriusXM on Tuesday after practice, and he said this about Jack Campbell, quote, I mean, this is his defense. I mean, he's taken ownership. He stepped in there. He kind of sets a tone for everybody. But, when I mentioned the ability to get a few more things and putting a lot more on our players, it really starts with him and Anzalone and those guys, because they're such smart guys. And Barnes, they can all do multiple jobs and they're all smart, but they understand. But it starts with Jack. Jack can get us anything we need to. He makes things right. And if it's something, even if it's wrong, it's right, as long as we're on the same page. And that's what he does a great job of. Everybody's on the same page. Pretty strong message that was Alex Anzalone's role, right? And we know that Jack took a lot of those responsibilities last year in terms of being the play caller. But that quote to me shows a mastering of the defense that they believe Jack Campbell has that maybe he didn't have at the beginning of last year.
I think he's playing faster. Yeah. He looks smoother. He is a very unique linebacker in the fact that he has a lot of athleticism at a very big size, right? Being like 6'5", 250, and being able to have the athleticism that he has is rare. And I think that's one of the reasons why they went after him in the first round, right? And so if you're turning it over to him, it seems like he's ready for it as of right now, right? The early, returns here on what we've seen. But
you still need a will linebacker, right? Like there still has to be a guy there. Saying. That's good.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
In the defense that you run now, you have it set up where you're running with 3.
Yeah.
And even if Alex isn't there and you're playing Derek at will, you still need another guy who's going to give you half the defensive snaps in the game. And with no Malcolm, you're looking at guys like Cunningham, Stewart, and Nowaski as the potential like guys who could fill in for some roles. And that's a significant downgrade from Alex. And so in the current design, they need Alex 100%. Do they think they might shift the defense a year from now when his contract is up? I mean, anything's possible. We've seen him do it before, but what they're throwing out there at camp is the defense we saw last year, and that needs an Alex Anzalone.
It just kind of came to mind now because Zach Cunningham was such a late addition to the roster. It makes me wonder if they saw the
holdout coming.
The holdout coming. They saw I can't think of the idiom. The writing on the wall. There we go. And like, hey, we need to get ourselves a veteran guy who's been in the league, who has a ton of snaps, in case.
He led the league in tackles like 4 years ago or something like that. Right. Like he's not a nobody.
Right. Now to Anzalone's credit throughout all this, it's unclear if he's going to hold out into practice when he's healthy from this hamstring injury, but he did make it pretty darn clear that he isn't going to jeopardize his team's chance to win a Super Bowl by sitting out in the regular season. So we'll see how it plays out. Next question. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, things change quickly, and they turn positive or negative at any time.
Yep. All right. Devin P., one of our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, asks, how are you feeling thus far about what you're seeing scheme-wise from Morton and Calvin in comparison to Ben and Glenn? Obviously early, but I'm curious if some of the play call schemes look any similar or different. So we have to be a little bit careful here.
Yeah, exactly.
We probably have to speak very generically, and I think we also have to throw in the caveat that the first few days of camp, a lot of it is just getting in the right place, and you're keeping things pretty generic overall. But I would say, like, especially on Tuesday, when granted it was third and short day and you can be pretty aggressive on defense, like that was kind of the defining feature that I found out about the defense. Like they got a couple new tricks up their bag. They're going to be a little bit, maybe even more aggressive than we saw under Aaron Glenn, who was like a very aggressive coach at times. I don't know. Did you get that kind of same impression from maybe beyond just Tuesday's practice?
I really think returning the scheme that they had has instilled a level of confidence in them that is allowing them to play faster and more aggressive. How much the defensive front changes with the new additions of Tyleek, with Aleem coming back slow, Aiden coming off an injury, that's going to determine a lot of their success. But the back seven is just flying all over the field. And they look strong. And usually the back seven is slow at the beginning of the camp, and they don't look slow right now. They are moving. And so I do like that aggression. But really on a defensive standpoint, I don't think a lot's going to change. You might see some different styles of blitzing. You're going to see more attention paid to the football, specifically in trying to create turnovers. And so defense, those are I think some priorities we're seeing early in camp.
Let me throw another quote from Dan Campbell in that SiriusXM interview that I thought was fascinating, and I almost wrote something up on it. I probably should have, but I think it's something that you and I are going to have to keep an extra eye out for over the next couple of weeks. But he says, quote, there's a lot of things we're doing that we've done before with AG, but then we've thrown in a whole lot of wrinkles, man. There's going to be a whole lot more variety. We're putting a lot more on our players.
Well, we're seeing it in the blitzes. And again, we can't talk about it, but we're seeing blitzes that we didn't see under AG. And look, before camp, a week ago, we were talking about what were wrinkles that you'd like to see. And I said, I'd like to see different blitzes. I'm getting my wish, man, because we're seeing a variety of blitzes. Yeah. And it's some of it's designed, like during that third and short, they were blitzing every time. So I mean, that's by design, right? Like,
and again, like that might change our perception because they were playing third and shorts all practice, and it was just like, oh my god, they're blitzing every time. Well, of course, it's third down. Like that's when you blitz.
Yeah, and I think that was designed, like the situation is designed to blitz, to create pressure, to force the quarterback to make a quick decision. On the offense players to get open, and that's what led.
The benefits of that is, one, you're putting some extra needed pressure on a guy like Tate Ratledge, on a guy like Hendon Hooker. You know, guys
running backs.
Yep, running backs in pass protection, like the guys that need that kind of like drinking from the fire hose moments. Those are the guys that are benefiting most from a very aggressive defense, I would say.
Yep. On offense.
Yeah, let's talk offense real quick.
You're moving guys around. Yeah. I don't know how much that's going to be influencing the play calling or the overall scheme, but they said they were going to take more deep shots. I think they're taking more deep shots. They've moved some guys that maybe were traditionally at one spot. Now they're taking reps at another spot. So we see more movement. Normally in the past, it's just been kind of like Amon-Ra and Khalif that kind of get some movement, but we're seeing guys there. We're seeing tight ends used a little bit differently, expanding the tight ends roles a little bit. Again, I don't want to, we're not allowed to speak
and
on what it is.
Some of that might just be like, hey, can you do this? Let's see.
Yeah, certainly. But also, the player acquisition were some guys that could do this as well, right? So like, there's some little new wrinkles. I think, again, overall philosophy of the offense isn't going to change much, but there are some creative placement of players that we haven't seen before, and that includes 2 running back sets.
Look at you transitioning to the next question like a pro. We're going to stick with the offense for the next 2 questions. Jason F. from Pride of Detroit Direct asks, can you and Erik explain why you like 2 running back sets? What adjustments do defense have to make as a result, and how do we take advantage of those adjustments? I get having Gibbs as a receiver in the slot is dangerous, but isn't that the same thing of having a single running back set with a dangerous receiver in the slot?
So here's the beauty of it. The defense adjusts their personnel based on what the offensive personnel sends onto the field. So when you send on 12 personnel or 21 personnel in this situation, when you send on 21 and you only have 2 wide receivers, the defense counters and normally goes into base. So that means they're going to be a little bit more box heavy, and they're going to play maybe just 2 corners to get rid of their nickel. Now, when you release like a Gibbs into the slot, or even if you run him out of the backfield, or even if you line him up out wide, you've now created a potential mismatch in your personnel right from the get-go. And then if they don't match your personnel and they stay in nickel, you still have the option now to run the other running back, and you can have an advantage that way. So what's unique and creative about the 2-back set is that you have the option to pass or run depending on what the defense does, and you can just kind of, take it to them either way.
Right, and plus it just gives you a whole bunch of different formation opportunities. Like, they put Amon-Ra in the backfield a few times, and that way they have 2 guys in the backfield, but now you can do that with both Montgomery and Gibbs. And like you said, when the personnel grouping is revealed, you don't know where they're going to line up, right? So if you don't know if Gibbs is going to be in the backfield or out wide, do you send in another linebacker or do you send in a nickel?
Mm-hmm.
Teams are going to have to make that decision kind of blindly, right?
Yeah, on the fly, blindly, not knowing where Gibbs is going to line up. And so if you're out wide, like maybe it makes more sense to have the nickel. If he's in the backfield, maybe it makes more sense to have a linebacker, but you're not going to have that information to make that decision. And so
yeah, if they're heavier, then maybe you motion Gibbs out to the outside and you throw it to him. If he doesn't, maybe Gibbs can be your lead blocker. Maybe David Montgomery can be your lead blocker for Gibbs. He certainly has that within his realm of, talent. So I just think it opens up a lot of different opportunities in a way that, like, I understand the question, like, a slot can do a lot of those things too, but what the slot can't do is motion back into the backfield and take a run and run like Jahmyr Gibbs can.
Right.
Another kind of similar question here from Tim Bowers on Twitter asks, what would you change as far as the running game? What would change, I should say, as far as the running game with Fraley as the run game coordinator? Two back sets and perceived strengths or weaknesses of a new offensive line starting lineup: Decker, Mahogany, Tate, Glasgow, Sewell. So,
all right, let's start with the first part, which is what's going to change with Fraley being the run game coordinator. The only thing that's going to change is his paycheck. Right. He gets more money.
Yes.
He's been calling the run game for a while, and they're going to continue to lean on him in the run game.
Yep.
I don't expect much to change. He'll add new wrinkles in, as teams do every year.
Sure.
But at its core, you're going to see the run game be what it is. The two back sets, I think, is more of an influence of Morton. But I think Hank is just going to he's going to keep doing what he's been doing.
Yeah. And we talked to Taylor Decker, and when kind of talking about like his confidence in the offensive line, given the new shaking parts in the middle, one of his reasons for confidence that, everyone keeps saying the standard is a standard. We still expect to be one of the best offensive lines in the league. One of his reasonings was Hank is still here. He is still coordinating. He is still essentially coordinating the run game, which he was essentially before. And he's such a good teacher. I think his X's and O's is a bit underrated because, again, like, the Lions are one of the biggest varieties of rushing attacks in what they do, whether it's zone, whether it's, whatever they want to run, they're capable of doing it because he's such a great teacher, because they get, versatile offensive linemen who are both athletic and maulers. That makes his job a little bit easier for sure. But yeah, I think having that sort of continuity should help. And, like, let's also not remember that they're essentially returning 4 out of 5 starters, right?
Yes.
I know Mahogany wasn't a starter last year, but he was in the system last year. He knows the system. He played left guard. Graham has played right guard in the system. So to me, as camp has kind of gotten going and I've been able to talk to some of the players and see them out there, suddenly my concern of, like, oh my God, 3 guys in 3 new positions is more like, all right, Tate, what you got? What you got at center? I'm feeling confident about the other 2, but what you got at center, Tate?
Really, that's the only the only perceived weakness right now is how fast is Tate going to acclimate, right?
Yep.
As far as the strength, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about Mahogany, because it seems like your tune's changed a little bit. I'll sit back and listen.
Did someone read my Pride of Detroit Direct article this week? Or did someone, I saw someone Twitter snitched on me. Yeah, no, I mean.
No, I read it.
There was a rep in which he, like, I'm almost certain. It's always a little bit hard to tell, but I'm fairly certain he literally bent Tyleik Williams backwards in a way.
Yeah, he also just destroyed Derek Barnes.
He did. That's a little bit. I mean, he's bigger than Derek Barnes.
Yeah, he's a lot bigger.
I don't think he's that much bigger than Tyleik. And
no,
I mean, he was bent back so violently that I was legitimately concerned he was injured. And he actually did get up a little gimpy because, like, his head was behind where his feet were. Like, it was crazy. And so, yeah, I'm definitely starting to be a little bit more confident in there. And so
he's a monster. He's going to be a monster. I'm telling you, he's so fun.
I am still very confident in this team's ability to run the football. And part of that is the running backs, but I think the majority of it is I think everyone on that defensive line, sans, I don't know, maybe Decker? No, Decker's a better run blocker too, I think, at this point in his career. I think everyone
he's a good pass pro, so he gets it gets overlooked a little bit. But
yeah.
I don't think it's going to matter with Mahogany on that side. Like, that left side is now more power than it was last year. And the right side probably isn't going to be more power. It's going to be a little bit more technical, but you still have the best right tackle in the NFL on that side. Yeah, that's right, Eagles fans. The best right tackle in the NFL on that side. So, look, they have instead of having power and technique, it's now distributed,
Yeah.
right? And so that can be an advantage, especially if you start wanting to run gap plays or pull plays in different directions, right? You can change how you do it. Sewell just gives you so much flexibility in which guy you want to pull on the
Yep.
right. Mahogany now becomes a different level of blocker than you've ever had on the left side before. Because they've had technical guys for the last like 5 years or longer, right? And so it's it's a different style of balance than I think we've seen before. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see if you want to re-rank your offensive lines in the NFC North again, but after watching a few days. But
The
I'm
pads aren't
excited
even on
where
yet, Eric. No, and if we want to talk weaknesses, it's just, to me, it's how quickly can you get Tate ready. We've seen some ups and downs
yeah.
with him already,
Yes.
right? Like there's been communication mistakes, which is 100% normal for someone. There's been, times in which he's gotten blown back. There's, like I said, they're throwing a lot at him in terms of looks, in terms of pressures, throwing him into the fire, which I think is the right move,
Yeah.
especially if you have a lot of faith in this guy to mentally keep it together, which they do. They've raved about his mentality. They've raved about his intelligence several times. We haven't gotten an opportunity to talk to him yet, and I also feel like that's a strategic move from the Lions, because they've kind of been like, they've had a lead blocker in their PR department pretty much every time he's walking off the field, and he's politely declined and said he's going to talk later in the week. So at some point this week, I do expect to talk to him and just kind of see where he's at mentally. But I just think everything they're doing with him is so intentional that
Yeah.
it shows a level of confidence that hopefully we get to a point where we see that in terms of production very quickly.
It's really funny to watch when the different players exit the field, because it used to be that Jared Goff had a PR person attached to him as like
Yeah.
kind of an escort to make sure. Now they just let Jared walk in,
Yeah.
and and Tate's the guy that's getting the when a reporter does approach him, his standard line is, "They told me I'm going to have to talk to you guys later, and I can't do it until then." So like he's being asked every
Yep.
day, and he's having to decline every day. But it's such a different shift, right? Because we've always seen it. The quarterback always gets the attention.
Yep.
Like, and they've kind of shifted protecting Tate to and then like now Hooker was just kind of left out, and he got a whole big a whole big glom of reporters the other day.
Yeah.
I think he had some good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm excited. I'm excited for the attention that the rookie center is drawing, because it's opening up the gates for us to talk to guys that maybe we don't always get a chance to talk to.
That's very true. Let's try to fit one more in here before we take a break, because we've got a jam-packed episode with a ton of questions here. Between the numbers, Anthony, our good friend and Grit Index contributor, asked a question about grit. So as grit is the identity, it means they go a little longer, push a little harder, and think a little deeper and sharper. Which players in camp fit each of these grit traits so far?
I mean, it's a lot, right?
One
The one
of the
that
reasons I wanted to ask this question, and forgive me for asking my own question off of it and interrupting you. One thing that I haven't paid too much attention to, and maybe you have because you tend to be more observant about this sort of thing, is who are the guys that are staying late? Who are the guys that after practice is over, you have to sit and wait for them to come off the field?
it's a lot of there's standard guys.
Yep.
Like your Amon-Ra's and your Khalifs,
Sure.
and then anybody who wants to glom onto them. But it's really been a lot of the second or third tier kind of like bubble players that have been really putting in work.
I feel like
saw
I
this.
keep seeing the offensive linemen being
Dude,
one of the last to
offensive
come
lineman-
off the field.
and it's always the last three are always like the last three guys you would think about. Like Colby Sorsdal's in that group, right? And why? Because he needs it. He needs to be doing those reps, and he is. He's putting the work in. Man, when he comes off the field and he gives me like a little dap as he's walking by, like he's drenched in sweat. Like
I saw him on one of the promotional videos, the horoscope one, and he is. Of course you're right behind him, by the way, because I'm 99% sure you just got done talking to him.
I did. Yes, I saw that. But yeah, he was like he was talking to me about whatever, but like, oh my God, he's working.
Yeah.
And they're all like that. Like it's
Gio's one of those guys too.
Gio, Jamarco Jones was Gio, man. Holy cow. He's a specimen. Like he doesn't get smaller. Like I know he dropped 25 pounds, but he's massive.
Yeah.
The younger guys, like your Mason Millers, right? You know, they're a UDFA guy. Those guys are the ones who are sticking around. The edge rusher trio, the Agude, Uku, Lin group, they kind of stick around and do some extra work. The safeties, the Kennelly, Jackson, it was Norris, but it's not now. It's in Strickland. There was a group of four, and yesterday was a group of three. But they're working on special team stuff.
Yeah,
like they're doing like
what they have
where
to.
one guy engages, one guy dips around, and like, but because like honestly, for those guys, that's what's going to get them on the field, right? And so. It's really a lot of the guys that you would think are more bubble players. Most of the guys that are starters, they do a little bit extra work, and then they're all kind of going in a little bit at a time. And we've talked about this on the PODD daily videos. The starters, it's almost like we kind of know who the starters are, and we don't necessarily know are they going to stay at the spots that they're at, but we kind of know.
Yeah.
And so most of the competition is amongst the depth.
Yep. And
those are the guys that I think are doing the extra work. And then during practice, you know, you're seeing a lot of intensity. The one who obviously stands out the most is Grant Stewart. Like Grant Stewart just doesn't, he just never stops. Yes. He will not be outworked ever. Right. And like, I mean, I talked to him about it, and he just was like, endurance is easy. All you have to do is work for it. And I'm willing to work for it. And we've seen his endurance show up all the time. He's like, I'm just willing to push harder than you are. And I know I'm willing to push harder than you. And therefore I'm going to have better endurance than you. If you didn't read my observations from day 3, Grant Stewart was taking it to Jackson Meeks on one-on-one special team shows.
Yeah.
And he got beat one time by Meeks, and Meeks was past him, and he kind of like slowed down a little bit, and Stewart was coming 100 miles an hour and got there before Meeks could even get to the guy, even though he was cleanly beat.
Yeah.
He just never gives up on the play. And so if you want to talk about grit, it's oozing out of Grant Stewart.
Grit Stewart. We're going to start calling him Grit Stewart. No, that's a perfect answer. And I was on the radio with our friend Jeff Risden, and we gushed over him for like 5 minutes because we're like, this dude is already popping off, and we're not even during the part of camp where he's going to really pop off, which is when the pads go on. Like that dude is going to be, you're going to hear him from the opposite side of the field. Just the pads clicking.
There have been some standout guys in this camp that I haven't like expected. You know what I mean? Nate Lynn is a guy that I didn't have huge expectations for. I know he had a good training camp last year before injury. But like there are times when he is just like, he goes up against a rookie and he's just like embarrasses him. And I'm like, holy cow, that shouldn't happen. But he does. Like, there's all kinds of little guys, and we'll see it. You'll see it, and we'll probably come up with new guys every day. But it just seems like this team is entrenched with this style of player.
No question. All right, we're going to take a break after that extended first segment. When we come back, more questions about Lions training camp, and we'll extend a little bit beyond that as well. When we come back here on the Midweek Mailbag, we'll be right back. All right, we are in break. I do want to ask, because my streaming software does give me levels, but it's hard for me to pay attention to them when I am talking. We got a significant amount of complaints about our last POD cast, which we were working through some setting and software issues because my computer crashed and died on Sunday. I just want to check in with our live audience here if the levels between me and Erik are generally even. If I need to turn one person up or one person down, please let me know so that the back half of the podcast can be a little bit more even if necessary. Either way. And then we can answer some of your guys' questions. There were a lot of good questions I saw in the chat live that I have already forgotten. So make sure if you wrote something earlier to throw it in the chat again. Someone I know asked for a link for the Dan Campbell interview with SiriusXM. You do have to have a SiriusXM account. They do offer 3 months free, which I may have taken advantage of yesterday. Let's see if I can find. Oh yeah, here. I don't know if this link is going to work if you don't have a SiriusXM, but there's a bunch of interviews there and a lot of interesting information. So Dan Campbell, Amon-Ra, Aiden, Jared, and Brad Holmes all talked. Okay, sounds good. Great. So, they're hosting Kaiser White. Is that new news? They started showing visits in the what do you call it?
Transaction report?
Yeah, the transaction list. It is out today. Pup tryouts. Oh, they didn't try no one out today. Oh, no, they did. It's listed as a visit, not a tryout, which is interesting. I didn't even know there was a difference. Yeah, I mean, that could be something. I'm a little bit surprised they're not adding a defensive tackle with all the injuries over there. Okay. Hold on. Derek, don't let me forget that question. That's a good question. Let me get through the alerts really quick, and then we'll get to some of your questions here. Justin Zane, thank you for the 39 months subscribed on Twitch. J-Dubs, 53 months, says, have I missed Erik talking about mahogany yet? At the time, yes. Now, I'm sorry. At the time, no. Now, yes, you have. If you turned it off since. Junk Trunk, 36 months subscribed on Twitch, says FTB and Benedict Johnson. Erik, I want you to know how disappointed, like Alex Anzalone levels of disappointed I was in the PODcast co-hosts this week when we were asked to power rank our hatred of the other NFC North teams.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, both Miko and Ryan had the Packers last, as in I don't hate them as much as the other two teams anymore.
Why are they even allowed to podcast?
I don't know.
The Packers are number one.
They are
number
absolutely still number one. I don't care what the Vikings' stupid Twitter is like.
Oh yeah,
they're last to me.
Vikings Twitter doesn't even know the rules, so I don't care.
I mean, neither did Packers, right? Remember the handoff where Goff, knee was down?
That stemmed from a Vikings fan, though.
Oh, it did?
Yes.
Oh.
It was a Vikings fan who said it, and the Packers fans were just dumb enough to retweet it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm very much in Packers, Bears, Vikings right now. Packers, Bears, Vikings. Packers, Bears, Vikings. And it's been that way for a while. But the Bears are almost catching up just because of what happened this offseason.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I probably might have had the Vikings higher before the Ben Johnson move. Just because I didn't really care about the Bears.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't really
Right.
think they were that good. But now
Sleep.
that they
Sleep.
have Ben, there's a little bit of yeah.
Sleep. How long was the streak of not winning in Lambeau? Like 20
Long time.
years?
It was a long time.
Nah, it's the Packers. Anyways, Ryan Toledo, 35 months, says Jeremy is caving on Eric's mahogany takes hard. Easy does it. Easy does it. The pads aren't on. It was a good start to camp for him. And I think here's the thing about mahogany that maybe is a bit surprising. Like, I think we all said, like, this guy's probably going to win the job. So far, he's running unopposed. Like,
Oh yeah, no.
That's a
no
little
one's
bit
gonna
surprising to me. I thought maybe there'd be a little bit more rotation in there.
Yeah, no. I'm telling you, man. he
But
he's almost like an overgrown bear. Like he doesn't quite know his power yet. And he's kind of like, oops, I knocked over Derek Barnes.
he's just Mongo from Blazing Saddles, literally played by a former Detroit Lion.
I he's got more talent than I think he's aware of yet.
Yeah, that's probably true. But like you said, it is a little surprising that like there has not been any rotation at any position among the starters. Zero.
No.
Defensive line, offensive line, corners, safeties, linebackers. It's been the same all 3 days. And listen, that doesn't mean it can't change or won't change. Very well could. But as of right now,
it's probably
I think it's a little bit surprising that every starting job has been quote unquote like accounted for. We thought there was going to be at least like 1 or 2 or 3.
No, I think they're settled.
It's wild.
It is. It is wild. Like we have a question coming up, and I don't want to get too much into it, but talking about ranking position battles and stuff like that. But like,
it's all backup. It's all 2s and 3s.
It's like, hey, rank the last 10 guys on the roster. Like that's kind of what it is.
Kind of.
Like it's almost like the first 45.
Right.
Like I started looking at it and I'm like, I feel like I don't want to get too far ahead, but
Thomas J. Hutchins, thank you for the 29 months subscribed on Twitch, and Downgrade, thank you for the 13 months, says, how has Tim Patrick looked at training camp? I'd say up and down. Tall. He looks tall.
He came out though. He was the first player to make a catch in team drills on the first day. First player to make a catch, and he's got such a height advantage over the Lions corners. Like he just at 6'4" and change, you know what I mean? Like he knows how to maximize his height. And then he had the really catch that stands out is he had to go up and get it, and he came down and landed on his feet, and then he was just like, okay, I can start running now. And he looked fine. I don't feel like they've used him as much as they've used a lot of the other guys. I think that's veteran. I think that's just his veteran status. Like you don't need to use him. And I feel like they do that with some of the other guys too. I've noticed. He's going to be fine. Like he's going to be the same guy that you got last year. I don't think you're going to get much more out of him. But hey, that'll be enough, man. That'll be enough.
Okay. Let's go back to Derek Marshall's question on YouTube, who asked, I'm interested to hear both your thoughts on the Lions possibly bringing in DeMarcus Walker to replace Levi, because if I'm not mistaken, that name got brought up in training camp with us. We were discussing, I don't remember who it was with, one of the other beat writers.
Sorry, what name?
DeMarcus Walker. The
former
Chicago Bears, the guy that visited back during.
Yeah, it was when Levi went down, right? Yeah.
Yes, and so that is the question: is what are your thoughts on possibly bringing him in to replace Levi?
Well, I don't think he's going to replace Levi. My general stance at this time of year is you have 90 players on 32 teams. Anybody who's not signed to a team is either a veteran waiting for the opportunity or a guy who maybe just isn't good enough to probably stick in the NFL.
Right.
There's a handful of veterans that are out there, but I don't know if he's a guy who's like just waiting for the right opportunity. I think
Right.
he's a guy that's maybe he just hasn't been. And so with that in mind, I always tend to look internally, and the way that they're using Pat O'Connor, it sure looks like that's going to be Pat O'Connor's job. And I also think when Wingo comes back, he's going to be in that mix. When Pascal comes back, he's going to be in that mix. And I think they're going
Yeah.
to feel comfortable with a trio of guys trying to replace Levi.
I'm with you, but I think I'm a little bit more open to this than you are.
Yeah, I mean, I just okay.
One is just like, I think it'd be nice to have a veteran who has a boatload of experience.
Like Pat O'Connor.
But Pat O'Connor actually doesn't have that much playing experience. He generally has just kind of like hung around, played some special teams. DeMarcus Walker has played 42 starts, 100 game appearances, started 17 games last year on a Bears defense that wasn't bad.
He started 17 games last year?
He started all 17 games last year.
All right, maybe I have to rethink my stance on him then.
12 the year before. So I think just having a veteran presence, and a lot like the Zach Cunningham signing, where it's just like, you don't want this guy to start, but like, he's a good guy to just have there just in case. Or and when you're on the defensive line, it still probably means at least 5 to 10 snaps. I don't know. Just a little bit of, I think your Pat O'Connor argument, like it's him or it. If you're essentially building this 53, it's probably going to have to come down to Pat O'Connor or DeMarcus Walker. And I think based on everything the Lions have done so far, they probably prefer Pat O'Connor. But would I mind a little bit of competition there? No, not at all. Especially and like, I think you can afford the roster spot right now. You have 4 guys on the interior that are injured right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know DeMarcus Walker's played a lot of edge, but like, he played a fair amount of interior snaps too. And I think there's at least somewhat of a perception in Chicago that he played his best when he was on the interior.
Well, I mean, Lions have that. I mean, essentially, Levi, it's that 4-eye, right? Like
Right.
that's.
Yep. Pat O'Connor has played more end than Davenport in the last 2 years. Okay. We're setting the bar there.
I don't know if he has because he played. I mean, Davenport played a couple games, so
He played 2
Oh.
and then 3 the year before. And Pat O'Connor played like 10 last year alone. 12. But yeah, I mean, like, if we're talking actual defensive snaps that Pat O'Connor has played, it's not a lot. Last year was the first time he's had more than 10 tackles in a season.
he's the new John Kaminsky, though, man.
But John Kaminsky played.
I think Pat's going to play this year too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And there is the whole, like, the Casey Rogers.
Yeah, connection.
Yep. What were you about to
So
say?
he played. I was going to say DeMarcus Walker played 700 snaps each of the last 2 years in Chicago, but he had never played more than 450 in any of the years prior.
Now look at Pat O'Connor, though. Has he ever
Oh, I
played more
know.
than 400? O'Connor. Defense.
235 last year.
Yeah. And before that, he only had 1 year with more than 100. Which doesn't play a lot. But it's clear they like him, right?
They like him more than like him.
Yeah. So I would be for DeMarcus Walker, but I kind of get a sense it's not going to happen. So he's fresh. That's right. He's got so much tread on the tires for a 31-year-old defensive lineman, Pat O'Connor. They've been saving him.
It's true. That's true. I didn't think about it that way.
Uh, there was
So
another one.
the Tom Kennedy of defensive linemen.
Uh, a lot of people. I don't want this to turn into a how does this guy look marathon of questions. But we got two, and I think they're two relatively interesting players that a lot of people have interest in. One is Terrion Arnold, the other is Broderick Martin. Opposite ends of the spectrum, obviously, but let's start with Broderick really quick. Obviously, he got injured in the last practice, very late in practice, so we have basically seen 3 full practices of him. The problem is we don't see him a lot because he's defensive tackle or nose tackle 3, and maybe even nose tackle 4. Because when Roy Lopez came out, it was the Michigan State guy. What's his name?
Raekwon Williams.
He became nose tackle 2 ahead of Broderick Martin. So
I'm a bit hesitant to weigh in on Broderick before pads come on, but
that's fair.
He does not look as explosive as he has in the past when I've said, man, there's potential. He almost like, I don't know. And I'm hoping the pads bring a different element to his game. Sure. Because right now it's stand up and push the offensive lineman in front of you type of situation. So you're not really highlighting a lot of what he can do. But I don't like his spot. Yeah. I think he needs to really take a really big jump when the pads come on in order to change my mind. And I'm rooting for him. I like him as a person. I think
everything
he's
that we know about him seems like he's willing to put in the work, right? He seems like a football character fit here in Detroit.
I don't know. Again, I'm hesitant to like make comparisons too early.
Yeah.
But I almost get some James Houston vibes where he's not like me. I don't know.
It's just not clicking.
And again, I'm hoping the pads change things because the pads could change things for a lot of players.
I mean, nose tackle is a position where pads are kind of essential to really evaluate.
Like, who was the backup quarterback that was challenging Hendon last year before?
Oh gosh. Before he got hurt.
Yeah, the veteran.
Right. This is going to be
save me on this one. No, before from
the
veteran,
Sudfeld.
Sudfeld. Sudfeld looked awesome until pads came on, and then he totally changed. Yep. He was a totally different quarterback. And thank you for helping me, by the way. You see this with these guys.
Yeah.
Derek Barnes, a couple of years ago, not last year. Last year he was into it, but like 2 years ago, Derek Barnes, I felt like you were like, oh, I don't know what he's gonna do, and blah blah blah. And then pads came on, and it was like, holy cow. Some of these guys, they just need it in order to buy in. Other guys don't. Brian Branch does not need pads.
Right. Yes.
Right. Some of the I wonder if Maurice Norris needs pads. I mean, he probably did not get in trouble, but his mindset is there. Terrion, Terrion's looking great.
Yep.
And maybe we transition to him here, but Terrion, I don't think there's going to be any change. I think he's going to just continue to play the way he's been playing. I'm curious to see if some of these guys can elevate their game even further as the pads come. Most notably the defenders, right?
Right.
The running backs, right? Yep. So I don't know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for some of these fringe guys that are in make or break years.
Yeah, to move to Terrion, I have to like remind myself of what he looked like in his rookie season, because what I'm still like continually struck by is just how he carries himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is such a professional. He is such a guy that acts like he belongs. But also, that was there from the beginning. He did not look like a rookie out there in the way he carried himself from day one. In a way that Amon-Ra didn't, right? In a way where it's just like, oh, this guy has the confidence, the work ethic, I don't know, just like the maturity to carry himself like he belongs. There are a lot of guys out there when their rookie season at the moment seems a little much for them, and understandably so, especially in the few days of training camp. He was never like that, and I feel like he's taken that to another level where, I don't know, he's acting like a veteran out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ownership of the defense. It's matching up against the Lions number one and hanging with them, if not beating them regularly. He is a fascinating guy to watch. Jeff Okudah was never like that. Like, I'm not trying to dump on the guy. Jeff Okudah flashed at times, but he didn't carry himself in the same way that I see Terrion carry himself. And that leaves me very, very optimistic about his future.
I mean, his play too. Like, he's a smart player. Like, and the athleticism is showing up. He looks more athletic, which means and he hasn't got more athletic. But because he looks more athletic, it means he's playing faster, right?
Yeah.
So that's important for him.
Yep.
I think he's just really scratching the surface too, which is encouraging.
A couple more questions here before we jump back into the show here. We don't have a ton of insight into Pascal's injury, Matt McCarthy. It is NFI, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's truly a non-football injury.
I think he said it was a knee, didn't he?
Didn't
Campbell say? Yeah.
There's so many that I get it mixed up. But
yeah, it's tough.
But just like for clarity on NFI versus PUP means it happened on an NFL property, essentially. It either happened in the game or in the Lions facility, and that can be practice, that can be working out, that could be during rehab at the Lions facility.
It's like workman's comp.
Right. But if you're doing rehab away from the Lions facility, if you're training in the offseason away from the Lions facility, it might be a football activity, but it's still considered non-football activity. So to make an assumption that's likely what happened, right? It could literally be a non-football injury. Like, he could have stepped on a shell in the ocean.
Could have tried to pick his puppy up who was peeing, trying to step over a gate, and rolled his ankle.
Definitely not playing volleyball at the time, right? Didn't Forey eventually admit that he was just playing volleyball?
That was something stupid.
Yeah. Anyways, it could be something like that, but I think
and now he gets
speaking,
to be. Do you know what he does now? Do you know what Forey does now?
No, I know he's in that Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah, he's a stunt man.
He's a stunt man. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Protect the pizza. Good job, Nate Burleson.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so NFI and Pupper, it's all about location. That's it. That's really it.
Yeah.
When you start talking about Pup NFI versus IR, it gets a little bit more muddy, because then you're talking about the timing, and the location doesn't matter.
Right.
Why location matters? It doesn't. I don't know.
I'll be honest. I don't even understand why there needs to be a difference between the two lists.
There doesn't, but they do it from a location. I don't know if it's like you're not covered, or I really don't know. There's got to be a reason for it, right? Probably. But playing Guitar Hero, that's a good one.
That is a good one. A Joel Zumaya deep cut. Mm-hmm. What fun injury history this city has with their athletes.
Rakestar looks like he has a chest contusion. That's how
Yeah,
it
that was
looks right
he got
now,
hurt on the very
unfortunately.
first practice.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So we haven't really had a good
It's
look at him.
not. It doesn't. They did not. Um, with Pascal, you never know, right? With that, but
True.
they haven't alluded to that being the
Right.
issue.
I'm pretty sure you're right in saying a knee injury because naturally I think that's where your mind goes when you see non-football
Oh,
injury with
100%.
Josh Pascal.
Especially with Pascal,
Yes.
100%.
Let me scroll through
Like
some of the
NFI
articles.
could be. There's also like an illness variation of
Sure.
NFI,
Yep.
which is what Mahogany,
Non-football illness.
right? Which is what Mahogany qualified for with his mono.
Right. Yeah, I don't see it.
But again, it's just a bunch of technical stuff that we have to learn and
Yep.
then explain it a million times. Mr. Love, don't worry about injuries right now. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's common. Like teams are banged up.
You're
They're
you're
gonna get banged up.
you're finally seeing it
Especially
with other teams now as they're reporting to camp,
yeah,
right? Like
right. Yes.
guys that they didn't expect to be on NFI lists or pup lists or on pup lists, like isn't a first round pick. They're like, oh, he hurt himself during training and now
I don't
he's
know.
gonna miss a couple weeks. I know.
I know
Was it
there's
the
one first round
Dolphins?
pick that hasn't signed yet, but we don't want to talk about the Bengals.
No, the
Oh.
Dolphins I think had to have someone airlifted either today or yesterday.
Really?
Yeah,
Holy
like
cow.
a real serious situation there. But yeah, Luther Burden wasn't at camp. Did you see that Bears tweet? You see how day one of Bears
Yeah.
camp is going?
I tried. I did my best not to dunk on him because I wanted to, but I'm like, it's just day one.
It is
Be
day one.
nice.
But in case you haven't seen it, I'll let you guys enjoy this tweet about how the first day of Bears camp went from Adam Hodge. So the first Bears practice in the books, and there were some growing pains. Ben Johnson got on Caleb and the first team multiple times and eventually pulled the entire unit in 7-on-7s after they couldn't get lined up twice in a row. No sign of Luther Burden. Now, it is completely unfair to judge them based on the very first practice of a new regime, but I think it also maybe should serve as a bit of a reminder to Chicago Bears land that this isn't going to change overnight. This isn't going to work immediately out of the gate. There is plenty of kinks to work through. And we learned that here in Detroit 4 years ago. It did not come right away. You're literally... that doesn't look like tea, but I see it's out of an Arizona iced tea bottle. Are you sipping
No.
tea?
This is my alkaline water bottle
Oh, it looked
because
like...
I'm a water snob.
Do people know this about you? That you're a water snob?
I don't know, maybe.
And I did what you should never do, which is doubt Erik. I doubted his ability. I'm like, what do you mean you can taste the difference between Costco water and Aquafina and all this stuff? Like, water is like the defining feature of water is that it's tasteless. It's tasteless. It's odorless. Like that is the chemical composition. And this man proceeded. I think it was like 4 different brands, and you named them all off blind.
I don't know why.
It's wild. Anyways.
It's I don't if it's doing nothing, that's fine.
It tastes
It
better.
just I enjoy the taste of it. It's just like I enjoy the taste of one brand of water over another. I don't know why I enjoy the taste better, but I'd rather drink that.
Sure. If that's what you want to say, I have a trash water palette. Sure. That's
No, you know what they said? Because I've looked it up, and I think I've told you this before. There's a certain group of individuals that all share some like a common trait, and one of the things is they can taste the difference between waters. Those are also the people who are like psychopaths, like like the what,
Mm.
right? Like
Interesting.
they have that gene in their DNA.
Well, I just got
So
the.
like
By the way, absolutely the biggest mahogany fan right now. Just so you know. Just so you know.
no, but I think like, they I mean there's some characteristics. I mean like look, an unwavering amount of confidence just for no reason. That's a side of
Oh
a guy
boy.
who can taste the difference between the
I'm
water.
afraid of what you're admitting here live on Twitch and YouTube right now.
Oh man, listen, the amount of people who have the gene versus the people who actually like go do something ridiculous it's very small, very small. A lot of people have the gene.
How do I pull ourselves out of this right now? I'm
Let's taste some water.
I think it means it's time to get back into the show, which is what we're gonna do. But it's not zero. It's
You're
not
right.
zero.
It's not. That's why I keep everybody allowing
toes.
me to go on my homeristic rants.
I forgot to update the title, and it's not centered, and it looks
No,
bad,
man.
so I'm gonna fix that. I also think it's the
man.
wrong font. You mean bold? Yeah, I think it's supposed to be that. Great. Okay. All right, let me get the questions up. We right here.
Where are we at, Jay?
Top 5 position battles.
Yeah.
And we'll just split those between us. We won't each give 5.
Oh, good, because
That'll
I
take
only
too
have
long.
3.
Great. Kicker.
Nope. No battles. Jake Bates versus the world.
Jake Bates versus me. All right, here we go. Oh, your name isn't centered either. What in the world? Welcome back to the midweek mailbag here, live on twitch.tv/Pride of Detroit or youtube.com/@Pride of Detroit. If you guys want a whole bunch of bonus content, we just answered a whole bunch of extra questions. If you're listening on the podcast feed, you can head over to YouTube or Twitch, watch replays of this show. But let's jump right back into more questions. The final one of these mostly coming from Twitch. At Lions for Life Detroit asks, who are your top 5 position battles you're most excited to watch into the preseason? So we were kind of talking about this maybe at the end of the segment, and certainly in the break, is that like all the starting jobs are kind of up for grabs, but the preseason isn't really for the starters anyways. So preseason is going to provide a lot of opportunities for players to separate, a lot of opportunities for growth for some of the Lions' young players. So between us, let's name 5 position battles or players in position battles that we're eager to see in the preseason.
All right. So just to clarify, none of the starters' jobs are up for grabs. We feel very confident that the starters are kind of who they are, and in a lot of situations, I think we feel pretty good about the 2 deep, and almost all of them.
Yeah.
The only spot that I can think of that I'm worrying or not worrying or considering that I'm speculating who might be the second guy in line is quarterback. And right?
What? I don't.
mean, well, I think that's a battle, but I think it's Hendon. But I mean, I think that's the only
I think interior
competition.
offensive line. I think.
Oh, okay. Sorry. But we're talking about OL like 4, 5, 6,
Sure.
something like that,
Yes.
right? Like, okay. But I mean, so like what I'm thinking about, like what battles am I looking for outside of like quarterback? where like the number 2 guy is maybe in question.
Sure.
All the other positions, we're looking at guys that are like fourth or fifth or sixth in the pecking order. And yes, sometimes you play two of those positions at the same time, and so that makes the two deep a little bit different. But yeah, I don't think there's a ton of positions up for grabs. I think it's really like maybe the last 10,
Sure.
right, on the roster. And so I had a hard time like trying to figure out which ones I'm looking for. Most of the battles that I'm looking at, well, I'll give you my three. I'll give you my guys in a
Sure.
second. But a lot of the things that I'm looking for when I'm in training camp are guys that extend into the practice squad, like guys that you're going to
Yeah.
need at
Yep.
some point during the season, because those are becoming more and more important as the Lions become a better team, because those are going to help you, get through the attrition of the season,
Yep.
and inevitably you're going to have some of those guys on the roster by the end. So I'll start out with the first one I'm looking at, the one I think is the most interesting to me, and that's wide receiver 6. And I know it's like, oh, that seems kind of silly, but I think that's the one that's most interesting to me, because I believe there's legitimately multiple options for
Sure.
it. Lovett is the guy we've kind of like been looking at, but I've really liked what I've seen from Meeks and
James.
Keeney James.
Yep.
Keeney James, the speed is really appealing,
Yep.
and he showed a really nice catch, grab, cross, yak play the other day, which is a lot of fun in this offense. And so, but then we've seen the same thing from Lovett, right, as well. And so, I think that's going to be a fun battle, because when you look at the receiver room and where it's headed, these are guys that you're going to want to try and retain as many of them as you can. If one of them makes the roster, can you keep the other two on the practice squad? That will be important, because that's helping you, this team, not just in 2025, but beyond. And so that's the first one to me that I'm excited, because I enjoy this. I enjoy the level of play that I'm seeing right now.
Sure. Is one of yours safety?
Yeah, because that's the second one. That's the second deepest one. So I'll let you cover
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's fascinating, because there are so many options, yet almost all of them are relatively unproven, right? You have your starting two. You have Avonte Maddox, who's going to get some safety reps a lot. I would say he's almost primarily a safety who does some nickel work at this point. Then it's a lot of names like Maurice Norris, despite getting kicked out of camp, I think is still maybe the leader in the camp, but Dan Jackson is right there too. And I think you have to maybe include both on the roster, the way that both of them are playing, the way that Dan Jackson can provide on special teams. And then like, you're not done, because Ian Kennelly has had a strong start to camp, and
Strickland made the team last year.
Lauren Strickland made the team last year. Very good point. And so there's a lot of guys, and I think maybe the separation amongst those guys is who's going to be the best defender, because I think we know that a lot of those guys can play on special teams, but because they are so thin beyond the starters, I think you might have to. I think the tiebreaker when you're talking about safety 5 might be, who are we most confident if we need to play in case of injury?
Yeah, safety 4 and 5 are going to be fascinating, because do you keep a fifth safety, right? Because it's you have 7 guys that can all make a legitimate case for the roster. And what's fascinating to me is you're seeing these players not just excel at like one spot, like they're getting runs at other spots. And Norris is the one who of the 4 kind of backup guys. Norris is the one that's been getting, I think, the first opportunities to show positional versatility. Look, they leaned on him at the end of last season. They had to use him in the playoff game. Like, they like him.
Yep.
And I think we dismiss Eric Hallett, but Eric Hallett's been playing corner. And I don't know if that's because it's like, hey, let's just take our safety 8 and make him play corner because we don't have depth, or if it's like, oh no, he legitimately has corner skills because he
Yeah.
doesn't look lost, even though you're making a pretty drastic position switch. So safety is by far the deepest group,
Yeah.
by far. So I'm with you. Do you have another one since I talked mostly about yours?
Center, I'm
Said it.
guessing, is on your list. Is center?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just interior offensive line in general.
Yeah.
Like
But,
who's going to be
specifically center, I think is kind of fascinating right now because it's the one position in which we've seen a different guy at the backup position all 3 days.
right.
Right?
Yep.
We start out with Aguakin, right? Is that the,
Yep.
make sure
Yep.
I get the
Guakin
order
was
right
first.
here. Then you went to Nice
Yep.
and
Tristan Colon.
Tristan Cole. I was trying to remember the veteran they added. Tristan Colon was on Tuesday, and so I don't know what to make of that order. I'm probably thinking too much about the order.
Not always. They're
always.
purposeful. Yeah.
But it's interesting, and it's interesting because all three of those guys are going to also have to show versatility at guard, and all three have played guard during camp so far. But I think that tells me like that they are going to invest in one of those guys. One of those guys
Certainly
is going to make
seems
the
that
team.
way.
Even if Graham is considered center 2 as the starting right guard, and I think he probably would be, they want a guy that can fill in multiple spots as well. Including
they
center.
did it. They did it last year.
Yep.
Graham was center 2. They still kept Nice. Right.
Right.
So I agree with you. I do think that they're going to keep one of those guys. So if we just kind of like look at the offensive line,
Yep.
we know the 5 starters, right? 5 starters are gonna be what they are. We know they're keeping Manu, and they're almost certainly keeping Dan Skipper.
Right.
And
You're at
and
7.
that's 7. So now you're at 7. Miles Frazier starting the season on PUP or not is going to be a big decision.
Right.
Because if he doesn't, that's 8.
Yep.
Because look, he's going to make the team. Even if he gets the Manu treatment, he's going to make the team. And so that would be 8. I do think Iguacan Nice Cologne is going to be a battle. So maybe that's 9. And then we kind of glossed over the fact that Moody and Aushika have been guard 2 at all camp.
Yes.
And not even really, no one's pushed them. They've just been guard 2 every camp. Second team guard, both of them.
Yep.
You'd think one of those guys, being a veteran, has a chance to make the team too.
Yep.
But now you're up to 10. And I don't know if you have room for 10. So like if it is 5 plus your 2 tackles and Frazier starts on PUP, then the decision's a little easier. Give me the better guy between Aushika and Moody, and then give me the best guy of Iguacan Nice Cologne. But if Frazier's in, boy, now you're starting to talk about roster construction as a whole and how things change, and it gets trickier. But yeah, offensive line is certainly how that plays out is going to be fascinating.
The irony of that situation that you just laid out is that, to me, if you have Miles Frazier on the roster, that's too much youth, and I think you need one of those 2 veterans to make the roster, and that will push you to 10.
It's really that balance is going to be unique because if Iguacan wins and you have Frazier and those are your 2 interior guys, a first and second year guy,
that's too much youth.
Then yes, and
way
then
too much
youth. But if like Nice wins, then does it make it easier to keep?
A little bit.
Man, it gets. I mean, it's first of all. Can we point out how ridiculous it is that we're talking about the difference between like OL 9 and that being like one of the most interesting camp battles that we have? That's where we're at, and that's awesome.
Yes.
So, wide receiver, safety, offensive line. The common theme here is they got lots of talent at all 3 of those spots, and maybe 1 or 2 spots that are open. And that's why the battle's fun, because there's good guys and not a lot of spots.
We've got a lot of questions to go through, and so I'm only going to name one more here instead of getting to your 5. My apologies. But like defensive tackle, I think has to be in the conversation right now just because of the injury situation and because we have seen at least a fair amount of rotation. I think a guy like Chris Smith tends to get glossed over a little bit, but given Levi, given Pascal might not start the season, same with Makai Wingo might not start the season, you're starting to already have to dig into some of the depth players like that. We've talked a lot about Pat O'Connor. He feels like he's already moved into like lock situation.
Yeah.
Given the way the roster looks right now.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan has even mentioned some of the like depth guys that we almost never talk about because we're like, oh, that guy's a long shot. Like your Raekwon
Williams.
Sorry, I need to
Keith Cooper is another guy who has been running a little bit higher in the rotation. Undrafted, kind of fits that 4-eye role that we saw kind of with Levi. And so if you don't have Pascal and you don't have Wingo, that opens the door for Keith Cooper because he's a similar style of player. You get either Pascal or Wingo back, and Keith Cooper's chances, diminish a little bit more. But he's a developmental guy like a Chris Smith that I think there's a good reason to keep them around because there's potential there, right? A lot of it's going to be who's on PUP, who's not, right? That's where it gets really tricky. And if you're telling me all the guys on PUP, except for like, Aleem and Malcolm, are back, the defensive line gets a little bit more clear, right? Okay. But if they're not, that's where it gets a little muddy.
All right, let's stick with the defensive line for the next couple questions here. RCJ1S on Twitter asks, explain the salary cap impact of Levi being lost for the year. I feel really bad that the Lions are spending $4 million on a player that won't see the field this year, but what impact does this have on the team's ability to compete financially? First of all, as you laid out, the Lions just essentially eat the contract when when you lose someone for injury, they're gone. There's nothing you can do to save that contract. Like, the only things that you would obviously save are like any sort of bonuses that they don't reach, right?
Yeah, and I don't think Levi had any, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so from a cap standpoint, there's nothing. Right. Oh no, he did have game bonuses.
Okay,
but those are based on last year. Right. So those would have already been factored into the cap. What the Lions will get is they'll get about $500,000 in credit next year. $500,000 in the grand scheme of things isn't super significant. He does have another quote bonus of another $250,000, but again, I don't know necessarily exactly what that is. So
probably some performance thing that he obviously won't hit, and so.
Right. Yeah. So it's less than $1 million that you're going to maybe save next year.
Yep.
You're not going to save anything this year. As far as how does it impact financially their ability to sign, it won't impact if they need to sign somebody, they have space. They've got like 40 something million. Like they have like this second most cap space in the NFL right now. They're saving all that cap space because they're over the cap next year.
Right.
And so they don't want to spend the money this year unless it's absolutely necessary. They want that surplus to roll over. And so it doesn't impact them this year. As far as like if they needed to sign someone.
Right.
If there's a break glass, in case of emergency type of situation, they're going to be fine.
Yep.
But everybody that you sign this year does impact your ability to have cap space next year. And I think that's really where the impact could potentially be felt. Look, teams end up with $20-30 million sometimes in IR, on IR because of X, Y, and Z reasons every year. So Lions are just getting a little bit of a head start. Injuries are inevitable. Guys are going to end up on IR. That total is going to go up. It just came earlier than you would have liked.
Yep. Mohawk Taproom asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about the DT group with Levi out for the year? Aleem, Pascal, Wingo expected to start the season on PUP, and now Roy Lopez and Broderick banged up. So, first of all, I would contest Pascal and Wingo starting the season on PUP. I think both of those players could. I think Dan gave them both September estimates, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And so if that's the case, what's the first game of the season is like the 7th or 8th. So if you're on PUP to start the year, that means you miss the first 4 games, which essentially would mean an October return, not a September return, right?
Right. The way I'm taking September returns are these are guys we expect to make the 53. That's
Right.
my read on it. I could be wrong, but that's
Right.
kind of the way I'm envisioning.
But I think this still remains a fair question, right? Because the defensive line room certainly looks different. And if Pascal and Wingo return in September, they're probably not going to be at their best, right? They're probably not going to hit the ground running necessarily. Having not played, neither of those guys will have a training camp under their belt, presumably. So you're looking at what is your starter? You're looking at starting a rookie first rounder in Tyleik Williams, almost certainly. You're looking at a DJ Reed, a 31-year-old DJ Reed. And
I think Roy's going to be okay. Roy just got his foot stepped on. Like he's got a boo-boo on his his toesies.
Right.
He's going to be
like you kind of want to have more in that group, right? Who else are you really confident in? Like we've said multiple times now.
Well, that's why Pat O'Connor's making the team.
Right. But I think people look at Pat O'Connor and they're like, okay, that's part of the reason why the defensive line wasn't very good towards the end of last year. Because they had to rely on Pat O'Connor.
I don't think it's going to take long for Wingo.
But even is he ready to jump Pat O'Connor on the depth chart?
Well, I don't know if it depends when he comes back. Right.
Yeah.
I really think this question is less. While it initially started out by talking about like with Levi, right? Like this is more about Wingo and Pascal to me. Like my confidence in the defensive line is more around how quick do those two come back? Because I think they can sustain the loss of Levi in the aggregate, right? Yeah, sure. Adding Pat O'Connor, getting Pascal to do it. Like you can get it. You can make it work by losing a guy like Levi, especially even down Aleem. You can still kind of make it work with what you got. The trick is how fast you get Pascal and Wingo back up to speed. Because if you get them up to speed by the regular season, you're looking all right. If not, first couple weeks are going to be a little bit, precarious.
Sticking with Pascal, since we just mentioned him, Lions UK NFL asks, a lot can change in a year, but what do you see the future looking like for Josh Pascal? Would the Lions re-sign him? If so, would he get more than a Levi-esque deal? Obviously, a lot of that just depends on how he plays this year. Certainly, starting injured isn't a great start. But let's say he was heading into free agency now. I think the Levi Onwuzurike deal is probably a good starting point of what a new contract would look for him, because there's enough intrigue there where it's like, okay, this is a second round talent. He's had to battle through some adversity his first few years. Maybe there's a little bit more under the tank than we see. He plays a premium position, but I think he really needs to play well and very well in order to stay here. And I think part of what works in his favor is what he's remains good at is what the Lions like, which is defending the run, setting the edge. I think we were expecting maybe a little bit more pass rush juice particularly when he's in the interior. But again, maybe that's something that we see develop late, like we saw with Levi, right? That's something that Levi really excelled at last year, late. Well, now it's Josh Pascal's turn to enter his 4th year. Maybe that's something he can do. But I would say at this point, he's probably not worth the contract that Levi got. But I think that is within the realm of possibilities by the time we get to the end of this year.
Yeah, it's tricky with these guys that have injury histories, right? Yeah. Pascal played 14 games last year. That was the most he'd seen. It's 12 the year before, 10 the year before that. And he's currently injured. So all of those factors go against him, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough because I think he fits the Lions system in a way that makes him valuable to the Lions, where it's not going to make him as valuable in other systems. And so it'll be interesting to see what the market is. And I think I do wonder if Levi kind of fell into that same boat, right? Of he's more of a system fit for how the Lions operate. And so, but don't get me wrong, the Lions need that player. They need Pascal. They need a Levi. They need a Wingo type of guy in order to. That's why they drafted Wingo, right? Because
Yep.
he fits in there. That's why they went and got Keith Cooper as a UDFA. That's why they like Pat O'Connor. Like they need somebody who can hang out and do the three tech, 4 eye, 5 tech, maybe 6 tech role. Um, like a Deshaun Hand would have been really good in this role, right?
Sure.
But they don't always fit into other schemes that are more traditional. So yeah, I don't know what his market's going to be. It's certainly I do expect it to be a little lower because of his injury history, though.
Yeah. A couple more here. Logan Page asks, how hot is Hooker's seat and what has he done to cool it? I think there might be a little bit of disagreement here based on what you previously said, because I mean,
No.
I still think Kyle Allen being quarterback 2 to start the training camp was more of a light the fire under Hendon Hooker move, more so than anything
Sure.
else, than a reflection of where I think they think these quarterbacks are at. I will say that the Lions continue to tepidly talk about Hendon Hooker. Not like they're not glowing about him in the way they are about some younger players and some third-year players. But he's looked good the last 2 days. I think Kyle Allen looked good on Tuesday as well. It's easy to see growth with Hendon.
Yes.
From last year to this year. But I think very much like you mentioned earlier, preseason is really going to be like the main source of evaluating these guys, because
right.
the bullets are flying. It's the most game-like situation. And that's one thing that I've heard both Dan and Brad talk about, which is like the benefit of having this fourth season preseason game is Hendon Hooker. Like Hendon Hooker stands to benefit more than anyone else. I mean, he could also stand to lose the most, right? Depends how he actually performs, but I think his leash is quite long right now. Kyle Allen is admittedly playing a little bit better than I expected, but again, we'll see with him too. Once the bolts are flying, how does that look? But I have Hendon as a heavy favorite to win the backup job.
Yeah, I should clarify. So do I.
Okay.
I'm only saying the quarterback 2 was open because the Lions have said it's been open.
That's true.
That realistically, I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
And the way that they build this team, and the way that they acquire, keep, maintain players is based on where you're going, as opposed to if you're stopped. And I kind of feel like Kyle Allen is kind of what we know Kyle Allen to be.
Sure.
And Hendon, I think, is just starting to take the genie out of the bottle. I think there's a lot more there and I think we'll get a chance to see it as he settles this preseason too.
All right, 2 more questions here. The next one from Detroit Dog says, out of all the rookies, who's impressed the most so far? And I am going to limit you to one person, with the understanding, too, I think we should caveat this question of the pads aren't on yet, and the Lions drafted and added a lot of offensive and defensive linemen, which make this a difficult question to answer.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I don't... because we haven't seen pads on, and their first 2 picks were trench players, it's really hard to say.
Yep.
I will say...
Interior trench players, too, which is even harder to evaluate with a blind eye.
100%. So, that being said, neither Williams nor Ratledge have looked out of place.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
And so that is, I think, significant. And that's why I'm actually going to default and go chalk here and say the first 2 guys are the guys that look impressive, because they
I
almost
literally
lost.
said I'm limiting you to one player, and you're cheating.
Fine. I'll take Williams then. I'll take the first one, the first round pick. But the other guys, you can tell they're learning.
Yeah.
I feel like Williams is ready to start.
Yeah.
And that's a feather in his cap. I mean, there's nothing where I'm like, oh my gosh, he looks like he's tearing people apart. He looks like he belongs.
Yeah.
And that's great.
That's a totally fair answer. I'm going to take the lineman out of the equation just because I don't think it's a fair evaluation right now. And
Okay.
it's a little bit easier with the skill position players. And I'll say, like, I've been more impressed with Dominic Lovett than I thought I was going to be. The speed is there, the twitchiness, a lot of crossing routes with him and Meeks. Like, those guys are flashing in those opportunities, but I'll go Dominic Lovett just to make it one person as well.
I could entertain an argument for any of the receivers because Tesla is the one who shows up the most because he's getting the most catches and he's running with the ones.
Sometimes
Kenny James has got that. Well, yeah, off and on ones and twos.
I'll say this about Tesla. I'm underwhelmed, but not because of anything he's doing. He is battling through something right now. Like, he has a sleeve on his knee and he does not look 100%.
I just go back to that. Go back to the wide receiver drill where they tried beating the receivers as they were running through the pads and stuff like that. Like, you look good. Like, maybe he is dealing with something. I think his usage is a little bit higher, but yeah, when Lovett gets the ball, it's fun. It's like, okay, I see the appeal.
He's very much in the mold of a guy who's going to be a camp darling, where it's just like short routes, easy throws from your backup quarterbacks, yak against slow, bad defensive backs.
I really think in the preseason, Hendon throwing to any of the rookies, people are going to just be like, oh, look, this is awesome.
We're so deep. Yeah. All right. Last question here comes from a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber. Patrick K asks, with Lions games and training camp becoming the hardest tickets to get, I am selfishly hoping there will be another POD watch event this year that can fill the void. Taking this question last, and I'm not making any promises with this, but I will say we have had introductory conversations about another live POD cast, potentially before the season starts. Just keep an eye out for that. There's a venue that has reached out to us that we've had some introductory conversations with. That I think some of the podcast crew is excited about a potential thing. Still in the very early planning stages, no guarantee that it happens, but I wanted to throw it out there for everybody, not just our Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers, for everyone who listens to us, who supports us. If you're looking for something like that, keep your eyes peeled. I wouldn't expect an announcement anytime soon, but obviously it has to come in the next month and a half here because season's starting in a month and a half. So just keep an eye out on that. And with that, let's close out the podcast. One more reminder, if you like myself and Erik talking about training camp, hey, you should be a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber because we talk about every single Detroit Lions podcast it's been at least 45 minutes every single time. The day of the practice, hours after practice actually ends, you get a 45-minute video sent to your email. All you have to do is subscribe to Pride of Detroit Direct. You can go to prideofdetroit.com/subscribe, $50 a year. So it's probably just worth it for the training camp content for the next 3 weeks, but you get a whole bunch of us after that. You get Erik and I doing post-game shows, videos. You get columns from Ty Schalter. We're still talking about maybe bringing certain people back who have been part of the Pride of Detroit crew or Pride of Detroit Direct crew, giving their analysis of games and previews of games, all that stuff. First Bite, if you're a fan of First Bite, that is a Pride of Detroit Direct content. Anyways, all of that, prideofdetroit.com/subscribe. Become a subscriber now. But until then, that's Erik. I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. It's Cass. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
All right. Hooker is looking better. It's the one thing where you wanted him to look better at, which is making decisions quicker. Getting to his second and third reads quicker, and just knowing when to play. Well, like, it's again the thing that I think Jared Goff is an expert at, knowing when a play is lost, when to check down, and just not taking unnecessary sacks or bailing too early or too late. Thanks, Purple. Appreciate it. Inside the Den tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken, they teased the 30th, right? Yeah, you're muted, but okay.
Sorry, I heard my kids arguing. Yeah, the 30th. I talked to one of the guys.
Oh yeah.
Yesterday, and he was like, I said, good idea, posting the date of when it's coming out, because now people will stop spamming
And
every
he said,
Lions tweet.
that hasn't stopped anybody. Is that what he said?
No, he
Oh.
said what he was surprised about is that people not only are hoping for this year's draft, but the year prior as well. And I'm like, oh man, that is a lot of work to expect to have both of those. Like I don't think that's realistic. And he's like, it's not my call. And I'm like, yeah, I think I'm excited.
That'd
to
be like
see.
a 3-hour episode.
But I think people were hoping,
Of course.
there'd be two of them, like two separate ones. My assumption is that you're going to get a really nice one on the 30th. That's about this year. And that's probably going to be, that should be enough. Right.
For sure. People
I
are
hope.
going to be happy with it because they do a fantastic. I know there's like this narrative out there that they're not as good as they used to be. It used to be great. Like it's like this SNL thing where it's like, oh, back during my years, Inside the Den, the video crew used to be better.
The Michigan Emmys tend to disagree.
Agreed that they disagree, and I'm more with the Emmys. Like, I know, I mean, they still do the inside the helmet stuff, which I think is maybe one of their most underrated things that they do.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I can guarantee Inside the Den's going to be great. There are certain limitations that they have that every team has that sucks. Like, I'd love to see more positive and negative things with like mic'd up situations. I can't get enough mic, but yeah, you're never going to get like a pissed off player on mic'd up when it's coming from the Lions. Yeah, exactly. Detroit fan, man. That's a good question, Crumbs. Any new assistant coaches popped up in the first few practices? I mean, it still remains Tashard Choice is the loudest one.
Is he?
Yeah.
I feel like Deshae Townsend is awfully loud.
When they get to 11s, he is.
Yeah, but when they're doing,
you think
this
in Indies
core
as
work-
well?
Yeah, he's more playful in Indies, like with his guys, but he's loud.
Yeah.
Like loud. Yeah. Did we ascertain that Choice is the one that was yelling the phrase over and over and over and over again?
I'm fairly certain.
That we're not allowed to.
A phrase that
divulge.
basically is talking about getting burned. Right? Like that's the take on what he's saying.
I mean,
right?
I don't know. I don't know his voice well enough to be able to say that that's him. But you know, they're fun. They're having fun.
Yeah.
Right?
I would say it's a little bit quieter than usual. I expected more. Maybe this is just me, like, because Kelvin Shepard and Tashard Choice have a history and they're friends. I wanted Deuce Staley, Aaron Glenn 2.0, and it hasn't been that.
No. I don't think we're never going to see that again. That was nuts.
I wanted more of that.
Yeah, you're more or less getting chirping from afar.
Yes.
Like,
and honestly, like, okay, I think something to also consider at that time in the Lions' progression, I think the coaches were trying to transfer that to the players, right?
yes.
Like part of the reason they are so energized and bringing that energy is just so you're raising the competition level. They don't have to do that anymore. We saw during Tuesday's practice, the intensity was there. And I forgot to mention this during PODD because I thought Kirby had the best quote about it, which was basically saying like, hey, I would rather have to tell a player to slow down than to tell him to pick it up. Mm-hmm. And that's where they're at.
That is the philosophy of the secondary.
Yes.
Because they're all doing that.
And so I don't want to say it was manufactured between Glenn and
no, it was natural. They were very just like competitive.
But they may have cranked it up from 11 to 12 in order to just add that competitive juice to practice.
Yeah, and it wasn't for the cameras. Like they were doing that before Hard Knocks came into camp.
Yes,
that was there. Yeah.
Yep.
We knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And it delivered.
It certainly did. Couple alerts to get through here. Guy Utah, thank you for the 32 months, says I'm back. Go Lions. Hey, welcome back and go Lions. And I visited Utah during our break, so thanks for keeping the state in good shape, assuming you're there. I enjoyed myself in Salt Lake City. Grandpa QB, 19 months, says over under Hassanin's 2 sacks in the Hall of Fame game.
Ooh.
That's a lot. I'm going to say under, but only because I don't know, he's going to play a lot. But there's a fair amount of guys to rotate at those positions. You know, we talked about Ukwu, Agude. They're each going to have to get some opportunities out there. So I'm just going to say, because he'll play like 15 snaps, 15, maybe 20. I'll only give him.
Play more. He might play a little more.
He might.
Because, like, I mean, they're not playing Hutch. Pascal's hurt.
They're not going to play Davenport.
Not going to play Davenport. Muhammad's hurt. Like, Hassanin, I don't know if he'll start. But
he probably will. I mean, he's edge 2 right now. He's with the second team.
He has been repping ahead. That is 100% correct.
Yeah.
I just wonder when it comes to like making a start if they would put like Nate Lynn ahead of him.
Maybe.
Because right now, I think Lynn's been playing well.
Yeah.
But I also think they want Hassanin to get those higher reps when he can. So they're going to just keep, like with a lot of these rookies, just keep throwing them right into the fire.
Let me get to the other 2 alerts.
These preseason games some of these guys are going to play half the game. Because like with the injuries and taking the starters out.
That's true.
Like, I still think it's under 2 though. That's just my guess.
Lions Blood asks an interesting question, and
yes,
will Tate Ratledge play in the preseason?
No,
I'm pretty sure the answer is no, but I'm not counting it out completely.
They won't even let a reporter talk to him. They're not going to put him on the field,
right? But I think that is because they want him locked in. And I'm with you. I don't think it's going to happen.
I just don't.
This is a question we'll have to ask Dan as we get a little bit closer to the Hall of Fame game.
It's so weird too, because if you don't play him, because you're probably not playing a lot of the other guys,
right?
Like you're not playing Panay,
right?
You're not playing Graham.
So is it worth it for him to build chemistry with guys he's not even going to play with? Yeah,
might be him and Mahogany, maybe, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea is, hey, we have these joint practices for a reason. We have 3 joint practices this year. That's going to be his preseason games.
And what did Dan say? Right, leading into the Hall of Fame game, he's hoping to have the lineup kind of settled.
Right.
And then after the Hall of Fame game, then it becomes a chemistry. Like,
yep.
That's the next step that they're working on. So,
yeah.
I'm going to say no Hall of Fame game.
I agree with you. I also think there's the answer could be no for the Hall of Fame game, but yes for later in the preseason. Like, and it probably wouldn't be more than like a series or 2, but it's possible. I would actually think I would be in favor of seeing 1 or 2 series starting offensive line.
I do wonder if they'll, with a 4th preseason game, if they'll entertain that in one of them.
Yeah.
Like in Miami, you have 1, or is it Houston? Houston, you only have 1 joint. practice, right?
it's
Miami, you
Alabama.
have 2. Houston, you have 1. So maybe Houston.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And it's going to be at home, and
Right.
it, it's very possible you get kind of a let's do a little scrimmage there.
Xanada, I should say, 7-month subscribe says, will Brad speak to the media again before the season starts? If so, what would be the most pressing question you ask? Historically speaking, yes. Right after cuts, he talks to the media, typically with Ray Agnew. I think it's been that way for the past 2 years. That isn't on the current media schedule yet, but that doesn't get put on the schedule until because you might remember there are now 2 weeks between the last preseason game and the first week of the season. There's that extra week in between. And I think that's usually when we get Brad. The most pressing question, I mean, there's a lot.
Well, why didn't you draft an edge rusher?
That will be the first 7 questions before we get to Alex Anzalone.
Completely ignoring the fact that they did draft an edge rusher.
Alex Anzalone, Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams. It's all the contract stuff, right? Where you really only get one or 2 shots to ask him those questions. And, fingers crossed by the time training camp and the preseason is over, we have resolutions with 1 or 2 of those players, maybe all 3. But
why did you sign Levi to $4 million if you knew he was going to go on IR?
Right. Well, I would like clarity on. Hey, did you draft Tyleek because you knew about Levi?
He's going to say no.
Did you draft Tate Ratledge as a center because you knew Frank was going to retire?
He's going to say no. Because what's his standard line? We draft football players.
Yeah, we don't draft for need.
We don't draft for need. We draft football players.
That's fair.
That's what he's going to say.
He might be lying.
He might be lying, but that's what he's going to say.
Joe Tiger, thank you for the 7-month subscribed on Twitch, and we're caught up on alerts. Thank you for all the support over on Twitch. And Hub Nasty, also thank you for following, subscribing on YouTube. You know what? I wanted to do this too because I never see the alerts pop up, and I'm not sure why. But we also have a few members on YouTube. And if you don't know what a member is, it's basically a paid subscription on YouTube. And that's just as valuable to us as a Twitch subscription, and we never read them off because I don't get the alerts. So let me pull up our YouTube members and shout them all out right now because we've got 5 of them. Shout out to Seth Prusey, Justin Coddington, Baseball Recruit, Bailey SSJ, and Dennis Gray. Dennis Gray has been a member for 15 months, Bailey 14, Baseball 9, wow. Justin for a month, and Seth was a new subscriber, a new member, 4 days member. Hope you guys stay. One thing I do want to work on either throughout the year is making it more valuable to be a member on YouTube. You do get some of the same things that you get on Twitch, including some emotes, emojis, whatever you want to call them. But I'd like to do more for all you over there on YouTube because you guys essentially outnumber Twitch views by 2 to 1 at this point, maybe 3 to 1. And we do a lot of cool things for our Twitch subscribers. I'd like to make it valuable for you on YouTube as well. So I'm not as familiar with YouTube subscription benefits and things like that. So if you guys have ideas, feel free to throw that in the comment section on this YouTube video. You can tell me right now if you're part of the live audience. I'd like to make it worth your while over there. Just wanted to throw that out there. With that, I think it might be time to get out of here.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. Great. So POD cast will be Tuesday night. For those of you that want to be part of the live audience, I believe Ryan has a scheduling conflict, so that will probably be more of a week 1 training camp recap / Hall of Fame game preview.
We're gonna have to get creative with our next midweek because we don't want to do it during Inside the Den. The Hall of Fame game is on
next week is subscriber only, so we can record that whenever.
Got it. Sign up for PODD.
Yep. Probably should have mentioned that too. I used to lurk on Twitch. Now I'm on YouTube where I can at least chat. Fair enough. But yeah, if there's anything that you want, because I think memberships in general are tougher to come by than Twitch subs. Part of that is there isn't a 1-to-1 replacement for a Twitch Prime, right? I have to imagine like at least 60% of our Twitch subscriptions are through the Amazon Prime program, and there isn't something like that.
Mine is.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not offended.
It's free. Take advantage.
Yeah, exactly. But I'd love to make a YouTube sub worth it in some way. Beyond just a normal subscription, a membership. I don't like that there's different words for the same thing. Membership. So, if there's any perks you guys think of, let me know. And with that, it's time to get out of here. We'll see you next live on Tuesday. If you're a Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, we'll just see you guys tomorrow after Thursday's practice.
And Fridays.
And then Friday. Saturdays. Then Sunday, I think, is another day off.
I didn't need it. I wrote down a list of 14 things I wanted to accomplish today based on my honey-do list. I got through 4 of them.
Yeah. Hey, it's only 7:00. We will fulfill the charity drive promises. We've already talked about that behind the scenes. I promise that'll happen. All right. Let's get out of here. You guys have a great rest of your night. Hey, and if you're the Detroit Tigers and you're watching this, think about getting your shit together.
Please? Something? Holy
Great.
cow.
See you guys later.